In the midst of the huge ocean, where the waves rumble like the sea whispers, there are people who live their lives in silence, fighting against the harsh nature on a daily basis. These people are tuna fishermen. This voyage is not merely a means of making a living. Rather, it is also an area of artistic expression, a tense and exciting competition between mankind and the most powerful fish in the ocean. As a result of its strong bulk, incredible speed, and intense instinct for survival, tuna has long been considered a symbol of the most difficult challenge that fishing can present. There is no difference between each journey to sea and a war, in which individuals are required to utilize all of their abilities, bravery, and expertise in order to be able to carry this fish across the deck. As soon as night falls over the ocean, the glimmering lights that come from tuna fishing boats start to flare like tiny fires in the vastness of the ocean. During this time, fishermen get everything ready for a search that could run for several hours or perhaps several days. Fishing lines that are tens of kilometers long are wrapped up to be transported on board. It is common practice to bait sharp hooks with fresh, tiny fish. Combined with the aroma of motor oil, sea salt, and human sweat, the pungent fishy odor permeates the air and spreads across the atmosphere. As far as capturing tuna is concerned, the most common methods are trolling with long hooks and using hand lines or long lines. There is a technique known as longline, which is considered to be the most advanced method. This approach requires exact coordination between time, location, and weather elements. When a primary fishing line system is deployed horizontally across the surface of the water, hundreds to thousands of auxiliary hooks that are firmly tied are attached to said line system. Every hook is a miniature trap that is just waiting for a tuna to jump into it. In order to prevent tuna from suffering major injuries, hooks are frequently constructed to be quite sharp, while still ensuring that the fish is still alive when they are brought up. For commercial purposes, when the line is dropped, the ship moves slowly in a direction that has been pre-calculated. This direction is typically where there are nutrient-rich ocean currents, which is where schools of sardines and mackerel assemble, which is the preferred bait supply for tuna. It is not necessary for experienced captains to have modern maps. All that is required of them is to observe the direction of the wind, the color of the water, and the behavior of seabirds in order to determine the location of the fish. At other times, all it takes is a swarm of seagulls flying low and circling above the surface for them to reach the conclusion that they should abandon their line. When it has been a few hours and the fishing line has become firmly embedded in the water, the ship comes to a stop. There is complete silence now that the engine has been shut off. Now is the moment to wait, with the same level of excitement as if one were witnessing a contest between two of the best martial artists in the world. As they sit next to the enormous reels, fishermen keep their gaze fixed on the line that they are fishing with. On the other hand, all of a sudden, the squeak sound is heard. It seems as though the fishing line is being tugged by an unseen force because it vibrates. A hook. In the stillness of the night, the shout reverberates like an alarm. Every single member of the crew hastily makes their way to their respective spots. Each person is responsible for their own duty, and one person is in charge of the line. An adjustment is made to the anchor direction. One is prepared to set the hook in motion in order to catch the fish. The conflict has started. In the event that it is only a small tuna, it will not be too difficult to lift it upright. However, if it is a bluefin tuna, which is a species that may weigh more than 200 kilos, then it will be a fight for survival that could end in death. It appears as though the fish is trying to tear the boat apart by dragging the line as it darts around in the water. In order to ensure that the fish progressively becomes exhausted, while still preventing it from breaking the line or slipping off the hook, the fisherman needs to coordinate their movements in a rhythmic manner and pull the line in small increments. There was a moment of casualness. A minor error is all that is required for the fish to make its escape. In a great number of cases, the fish fights so fiercely that the steel wire breaks, causing the person who is holding the line to sustain injuries that are a mixture of blood and seawater. On board the boat, there emerges a scene that is all too familiar. It is necessary for fishermen to use a wooden hammer or a stick to smash the heads of certain fish in order to bring them under control. These fish continue to struggle wildly even after being brought to the surface. There is still heat emanating from the body of the tuna. The animal's eyes are turned back. The strong wagging of its tail gives the impression that it has not yet shown any sign of capitulation. The sacred moment, the time that exists between humans and the water, is at that very moment, in the midst of life and death. In the middle, between success and commitment. Fishing is not the only thing that can be done. There is also an art to preserving. To ensure that tuna remains in its fresh state after it has been caught, it must be processed in a very short amount of time, gutted, packed with ice, or stored in a very cold environment. On large ships, the fish are immediately placed in the freezer, where temperatures can drop below -60 degrees Celsius. This process is repeated continuously. This guarantees that the quality of the fish is nearly identical to what it was when it was first caught, regardless of whether it is being sold in New York or Tokyo. At the renowned Tsukiji fish market in Japan, there are bluefin tuna of exceptional quality that have been sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is a commendable recompense for the fishermen who have endured the rigors of fishing in the middle of the ocean, sweating, bleeding, and crying. The art of hand fishing for tuna is considered to be the pinnacle of hunting. It takes place in the middle of the ocean, when people are confronted with one of the most powerful, vicious, and intelligent fish in the ocean. There is no involvement of machinery in this process. No fishing rods that are modern. You only have calloused hands. There is a sturdy fishing line. Patience and the tenacity of the fishermen are essential qualities. On small boats, where every square meter is a working space, the sound of the waves and the soft whistling of the wind hide the silence that would otherwise be there. The voyage of hand fishing for tuna begins as a spiritual ritual for those individuals who have established a connection to the ocean throughout their entire lives. When each fisherman boards the boat, they all bring with them freshly caught fish that have been cut from earlier captures or from the school of scrap fish that have been released around the boat as bait. They also carry fishing lines that have been neatly rolled, hooks that have been sharpened, and blades that have a sparkling appearance. Typically, the hand line is made of a specialized nylon material that is long-lasting, does not stretch, and is capable of withstanding a significant amount of force. Additionally, the hand line is frequently wrapped with an additional layer to prevent scratches from occurring when the fish is hauled over the side of the boat. A huge hook that is both sharp and flexible is used to secure the end of the line. The fishermen choose this hook with great care, taking into consideration the species of tuna that they are attempting to catch. Tuna have a high level of intelligence. If they see that they are in danger, they will not readily take the bait. It is not as simple as simply throwing the fishing line into the water. There are other factors to consider. Fishermen need to pay close attention to a variety of factors, including the sunshine that is shining on the surface of the water, the shadow of a bird that is flying in the distance, and even the peculiar motions of a school of small fish. All of these signals are recorded by their experience of dealing with survival. During the golden moment, when a school of tuna is seen circling near the surface, particularly in the early morning or late afternoon, the fishermen will gently cast their hand lines away from the boat, leaving the bait hung in the middle water layer, which is where the tuna typically hunt. This is the golden moment. They have their hands firmly grasping the end of the line, and their fingers are able to feel every single vibration that is delivered from the very tip of the line. The slightest movement, such as a wave that is going by, or an unexpected jolt, is an example of the signal. Afterward, when the tuna attacks, the sensation is communicated to the hand in a manner similar to that of an electric shock. Within a split second, the line is stretched out. Because of the friction, the fingertips are burning intensely. In spite of the fact that blood may occasionally ooze out of the palm of the hand, fishermen continue to hold on to the line. Without a rod or reel, The fight begins with only the muscles of the arms. Tenacity and strategic dexterity are required. Tuna, when hooked, frequently dart at a high rate of speed, looping around the boat in an attempt to reach the bottom of the water or to conceal themselves between the waves. There is a possibility that the fish will break or that the hook will tear its mouth if the angler tightens the line too quickly. If there is looseness in the line, the fish will be able to escape. As a result, it is essential to employ the method of extending and tightening the line in accordance with the rhythm of the fish pulling. The fisherman makes use of his hands to gently pull the line up, and he is aware that the weight is progressively increasing with each turn. There are occasions when it takes longer than half an hour to catch a fish that weighs 80 kilograms. The fisherman's entire body is set in a state of tension. It's pouring with sweat. On each successive turn of the line, which is gradually getting shorter, eyes are attracted to the line. The manner in which each individual handles the fish is unique to them. Certain individuals choose to wrap the line around their waist, encompassing their arms, utilizing their body weight to their advantage by pulling while leaning. While doing so, there are some individuals who choose to sit in close proximity to the edge of the boat. Their feet were used to kick the edge of the wooden panel, as a means of producing a fulcrum when pulling. However, regardless of the approach, the final objective is to bring the fish to the surface of the water, where it may be hooked onto the deck. This will allow the fish to be caught. On the other hand, the tuna, once it has risen above the water, has never been easily put down. They had a long wait. On occasion, one throws oneself into the air. The sunshine reflects off their silver scales, which sparkle, creating a scenario that is just magnificent. The sound of the splashing, the screams of the fishermen. There was a menacing tone coming from the line. Everything coalesced into a single dramatic moment. There were yellowfin or bluefin tuna that were so enormous that the angler had to fall backwards, owing to a lack of balance when they were put onto the boat. Steel hooks were correctly inserted into the mouth or gills of the fish in order to attract them. Hurriedly climbed aboard the boat before it could reach its destination. A number of fish were struck in the head, which immediately rendered them completely comatose. It is important to prevent them from waving their tails and causing harm to the fishermen. It was still heated throughout the entire body of the tuna when it was hauled up. The pupils were really brilliant. It appeared as though the scales were made of silver, clearly demonstrating the tremendous vitality that the ocean possesses. Immediately following the arrival of the fish on the deck, almost immediately, the fishermen began the process of processing them. You can rapidly kill the fish by stabbing it in the rear of the head with a sharp knife, to avoid having to struggle. The abdominal cavity was then excavated. There was a removal of the organs, washed with fresh water from the ocean. After that, place it in the cold storage that is accessible for vessels that are not equipped with deep freezers. It is planned to place the fish on ice and then cover it. Additionally, the entire vessel will immediately circle around in order to get at the shore before the fish lose their quality. Each and every fish is a triumph. The handline fishermen's perseverance and great abilities are on full display during this demonstration. Fishing for tuna with their hands is not for those who are weak. It calls for tremendous physical power, having intelligence, and perseverance. Numerous times, work hours for fishermen range from 12 to 18 hours straight. Their hands were all burned, their backs were in pain. Despite this, their gaze does not move away from the ocean. There is more to them than just fishing. They are fierce fighters, the creatives, individuals who engage in a conversation with the natural world. On each individual vessel, in every single regular fishing line, serves as a cultural heritage of fishing in its traditional form. One that is a profession. However, it is severe. Within the vastness of the ocean, it has managed to preserve its most pristine and lovely spirit. When we were at sea, the first rays of sunlight began to make their way through the thin clouds as they gradually appeared. As a result of pulling the rope, the fishermen's hands were bloated and red, but they were ready to start a new day, with red eyes as a result of not getting enough sleep. Their spirits, however, were not dampened in any way. Once more they stooped down, gathered each individual coil of rope. In the same way that they had done thousands of times before, they flung it out into the ocean with exceptional skill. The movement was straightforward, yet it included the virtuosity that had been developed over the course of many years. Over time, the ropes became submerged in the transparent water, taking the hopes with you. There are difficulties, as well as the ambitions of the fishermen. There are some mornings when the ocean is like a sheet of paper in terms of its calmness. The surface of the water is as smooth as a mirror. When fishing, fishermen are able to observe the shadows of fish moving beneath the boat. The yellowfin tuna behaves in a schooling manner. The water made them appear to be elongated, like silver bullets. They pay close attention to the bait on the table. Prior to making a decision to take it, they frequently swim around. At times, fishermen are required to act as though they are pulling the line as quickly as possible. It is important to create the impression that the prey is fleeing in order to appeal to the tuna's natural drive to hunt. Simply jerking the hand is all that is required to lengthen the line. Almost instantly, the fish makes its way in, a painful bite, and the battle starts all over again. Strength is not the only factor that affects anglers. Because of this, they need to be exceedingly sensitive to even the smallest of the fish's reactions. There is a tuna that moves in a straight line. Some people also zigzag and circle, as if creating a circle in the water, pulling the rope in a circular motion. It is necessary for fishermen to alter their positions frequently. There are moments when sitting, occasionally standing up, at times leaning back somewhat, holding the line with all of their physical weight available to them. On the deck, which is slippery, sweat falls down. A firmer grip is exerted by the hands on the line. The eyes follow the surface of the water. There is a place where white foam is blowing about like a cyclone is approaching. Quite a few tuna, as a result of being brought in close proximity to the edge of the ship, am going to make a final fight that is both powerful and insane. There are occasions when the jerk causes the line to brush against the hands of the fishermen to leave the red. Burning causes burns. In some cases, it is the fish that leaps into the air. I was waving my hand as if to demonstrate that it is not simple to control at that moment. A bluefin tuna that was almost 2 meters in length, weighing in the hundreds of kilograms, vibrantly waving on the deck of the ship. Its mouth was open to the fullest extent, exposing rows of sharp teeth. The picture of its eyes glittering like diamonds is one that cannot be forgotten by anyone who has seen it. By hand, on small vessels that are dedicated to the tuna fishing industry. When it comes to housing quarters, fishermen have very limited options. A solid plank serves as the bed. Located in close proximity to the wind, the stove is a pot made of cast iron. The dish consists of spicy fish stew and cold rice served with water. But a look of unwavering resolve can be seen on everyone's face. A calm and resolute quality. A number of individuals have been at sea since they were 13 years old, and I have been living with the waves for the past 4 decades. They are unable to read or write, not well versed in technological matters. The ability to smell the wind and feel the water is all that is required to determine whether or not there will be fish today. Such a skill cannot be taught in any school. It is only able to be trained by time and the sea. In seas that are abundant in tuna. That is especially true in hot regions, like the region that is close to the Kuroshio Current, located in the vicinity of Japan's coast, the tropical region of the South Pacific. There are typically only a few people on board longline boats. We must refrain from jostling each other in order to avoid frightening the fish. This is an unwritten law that everyone is aware of, and everyone knows to respect each other and keep their distance. While at sea, both trust and mutual support are essential. Whenever there is a problem with a ship, or when someone falls into the water, all of the other ships will arrive without a single second of delay. When it comes to the vocation of fishing for tuna by hand, there is no room for competitiveness or selfishness in this environment. Relying only on the community and the spirit of mutual cooperation for survival is the only option. On rare occasions, I am currently in the middle of a trip that will last for several days. The individuals who are fishing come upon a group of dolphins swimming near the vessel, as well as fish that are flying low above the water. It would appear that these creatures bring good fortune. A few moments of happiness among the tough voyage. At nighttime, silver is the color that the moonlight casts on the water, which is glittering. The fishing lines are stretched in a peaceful manner. People are sitting there in complete stillness, waiting for the fish to bite. Some people try to numb their feelings of homesickness by listening to lullabies. A few people simply gaze at the horizon, a place where a glimpse of light indicates that daybreak is on its way. The school of tuna will also make its appearance. Every time I go fishing for tuna, I use my hands. Sometimes, they are victorious. They fail to win every time. At other times, the entire boat only manages to reel in a few fish. On sometimes, however, they have a significant catch. The deck is covered by the fish, so that there is no room to step. At each and every time a large fish is brought in, everyone on board gives a cheer, just as if one were to emerge triumphant from a conflict. Putting the fish in the cold storage is the next step. Very neatly organized. In addition, it is marked. The sweat is wiped away by the fishermen. Have a grin. The next step is to get down on your knees and prepare the line for the following fishing day. Each individual hand fishing line serves as a link between man and the natural world. It is easy to understand. It's rough, but it hides a vast amount of expertise. Bravery is required, as well as an awareness of the ocean. Hand fishermen do not engage in a great deal of conversation. They simply do it. And make sure to be precise, not infrequently, and with a strong will. With each stroke of the knife, every single cast, in every pull, a whole life is handed to someone. And on the sea that is so huge, all that stands between life and death is a single wave. Despite the passage of time, hand tuna fishermen continue to be a living legend. Just as the sun begins to set, it gradually, suddenly, the surface of the water takes on an odd, silvery gray hue. It appears as though the entire area is falling into quiet. The only sound that could be heard was the sound of waves gently lapping against the side of the boat, and the sound of the wind rustling through the ropes as it blows through them. Following an entire day of continuously pulling the line, the hands of the fishermen are worn ragged. The fact is that they do not rest. Mostly due to the fact that there is one item that nobody discusses. It is during the time that the sun is setting that the tuna are at their most active. When they go in search of prey, they rush to the surface. And seasoned fishers are aware of the fact that if they miss this opportunity, they will miss out. The entire day's worth of work can be thrown away in the waves. Again, the line is lowered to its previous position. The bait is produced with greater attention to detail this time. Even live squid on occasion. Or fresh meat that has just been sliced from a fish that was caught already. In the night, the odor of blood that has been combined with the smell of the ocean spreads. In order to lure fish from a distance, it is necessary to create an unseen signal. The weak yellow light on the boat makes the shadows of the fishermen stand out more than they would otherwise. Every individual is paying close attention to their own section of the queue. Their eyes reacted to even the slightest form of vibration. This game is quite nerve-wracking. A place where the priceless fish can be lost by anyone who is even slightly careless for even a moment. Every single fisherman has a certain moment that they will never forget. At the very instant when he detects the initial motion in the hand that is clutching the rope, powerful, unambiguous, brimming with force. At that point, the fish has actually taken hold of the hook. Then he starts to fight back with all his might. The line gives the impression that it is about to break. There is a sound that can be heard since the line is rubbing against the rough glove, and the conflict starts all over again. During that period of time, nobody spoke. At all times, the fisherman maintains a straight-back gaze, fixated on the body of water, with a clenched hand. His entire body was being utilized in order to keep the initiative. Tuna is a thrashing fish. To spin, explores in great depth. Following that, they abruptly alter their course, much like a seasoned warrior. At one time, a young fisherman was successful in bringing in a bluefin tuna that was beyond 2 meters in length and weighed close to 200 kilograms. More than half an hour passed during the pulling process. He was left with shoulders that were nearly weary. As he hunched his back, there was swelling in his wrists. Despite this, he did not give up. Every time the fish went to a great depth, slowly but surely, he tightened the line even farther. As he waited for it to become exhausted, so that he could draw it back, when the fish showed its head, the entire boat began to detonate. All of the individuals collaborated in order to drag it onto the deck by means of iron hooks. A joyful moment that was permeated with sweat and the blood of fish. In most cases, the handline is not excessively long, but it is encased in a multitude of layers.